Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. As Ken mentioned, my name is Chris Garafola. I'm the Senior Content Manager at 4M Analytics. The focus of our panel discussion today will be on the need for digital transformation in the subsurface utility mapping industry, more specifically, how artificial intelligence is redefining the utility industry and its role in advancing our nation's critical infrastructure. So thank you, everybody, for joining in on this important conversation today. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. A little bit about us at 4M Analytics. 4M is the first utility AI mapping and analytics solution built for project owners, civil engineers, and general contractors during the early stages of infrastructure development. Our solution provides reliable real-time utility data to mitigate risk during the earliest, most cost-effective stages of construction, enabling you to make more informed decisions and to accelerate project kickoffs for field investigation teams right from your office. But before we get started today, I wanted to share a few data points on why we even need a digital transformation in the utility industry and why it's so critical. In 2024 alone, under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the Department of Transportation plans to allocate $145.3 billion to update critical infrastructure throughout the nation. Florida, in particular, faces unique challenges due to its rapid population growth. Estimated at 600 new residents daily for the next 30 years, and ongoing extreme weather events severely straining its infrastructure. This led to substantial funding through initiatives like the Moving Florida Forward program, say that 5 times fast, and the Broadband Infrastructure Program, the Grid Resilience and Innovation Partnerships Program, to ensure critical infrastructure can meet the demands of the current and future residents. Compounding these issues is a critical labor shortage, specifically civil engineers. The Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates a need for 25,000 new civil engineers annually just to offset attrition. And this doesn't even account for meeting the additional infrastructure demand, what we would need. And alarmingly, according to Data USA, only 21,000 civil engineering degrees were awarded in 2021, making a 1% decrease from the previous year. Additionally, the industry's dependence, sorry about the pulsars there. Additionally, the industry's dependence on conventional methods like manual utility record research and utility coordination is proving unsustainable. Fragmented, inaccurate, or non-existent data exacerbates these headwinds. And the utility sector exemplifies these issues with $5 billion spent annually on damage prevention, yet utility strikes are still on the rise. There were 220,000 strikes or near misses in 2021 alone, and the repair costs for these incidents amount to $1.5 billion, indicating a negative 70% ROI. I've never been good at math, but I know that's not a good return on investment. So, with the convergence of escalating demand and aging workforce, dwindling new talent, and inefficient conventional utility mapping practices, innovation isn't optional, it's imperative. And so failure to modernize will jeopardize not just our projects, but the future of national infrastructure itself. This pressing reality underscores the urgent need for a digital transformation in the utility industry. And to quote Federal Highway Administrator Shaylin Batt on a recent episode of InfraTalk America podcast, "We can't build projects in the 21st century like we did in the 20th century. It's a different world out there." So hopefully that sets the table a little bit for why we need a digital transformation in the utility industry for you guys. And I would like to start, before we dive in here, with a quick introduction of our amazing panel here. I'm not the expert today. I got some amazing experts here with me today. And I would like to, let's see, Wes, you want to kick it off?
Wes Kaiserschott with ServWest LLC. We're a DBE firm that specializes in subsurface utility engineering, utility coordination, and surveying of different modes, and as well as being VP of engineering for ServWest. I'm also a licensed engineer here in the great state of Florida, and pleased to be on this panel this morning. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Dan Kekia. I work for Colliers Engineering and Design. I'm the National Discipline Lead for Subsurface Utility Engineering, Utility Coordination, as well as supporting survey services here in Fort Lauderdale. So I am a local. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Suarez Abastida. I am the director of NMB Water. That is the water and sewer utility of the city of North Miami Beach. It's a pleasure to be here and tell you a little bit of what the utility and what we're trying to do on the municipal side regarding AI and the new technologies that are coming out.
Morning, everybody. Al Gomez-Pina. I'm a division vice president for Mastec Energy Solutions. About 30 years of utility construction engineering experience. First 20 so years here in South Florida with Florida Power and Light. For the last 7 years working for Mastec, doing the same for other utilities and customers throughout the state and the Southeast. Pleasure to be here.
And we have a special guest today that was in town. If you were wondering who the extra person was up here, Nick.
Yeah, good morning. Nick Zimbelis. I'm a subject matter expert in subsurface utility engineering in 7 countries. 46-year career, 15 years with the Florida Department of Transportation as a district utility engineer. So it's good to see some familiar faces here. And just here to offer some insight on how innovation and the technology that we're going to talk about is playing a role in subsurface utility engineering.
Great, thanks so much, everyone. And without further ado, let's dive into some Q&A. So Wes, we'll start with you. Where have you seen new technologies such as AI create the most value for ServWest? Specifically, can you elaborate on the value these technologies have added compared to conventional methods of utility record research and coordination?
Yeah, good question, Chris. At ServWest, we have adopted Forum Analytics for AI, and where it's happening, where it's being used the best is that the standard method of gathering utility records when you're doing a subsurface utility engineering project could be very cumbersome, very timely. It could take weeks before you have enough information to send your field crews out in the field. AI is allowing us to get real-time data. I've used the term before, maybe it's patented by now, but it's utility records on steroids. The information is live, it's real-time, and advancements in their programs monthly are coming out with even better information for us companies doing SUE. So AI definitely is launching that utility records research, which then allows us as SUE providers to deliver SUE to ASCE 3822 standards. Mr. Zimbelis here at the end is one of the authors and chairpersons of that committee that updates the standard now every 5 years, and it came out in the middle of 2022, the latest update. Quality level A, which is your test holes. Many of you are familiar with SUE. Quality level B is your designating to 0.2 feet, 60 millimeter in distance from the center of a pipe. And then quality level C and D are lesser certainty levels of SUE, dealing with surveying and segment connection of above ground features like manhole lids. And then quality level D is records research. That records research that we can map as a deliverable if the client wants it to that level is really where Forum Analytics and AI is coming in, because that information is live. We get to go then out and field verify it, gather records as well to backtrack and to make sure that the AI information is also 100% accurate for the client. So we're seeing some of that in the advancements as opposed to traditional methods.
Thanks, Wes. Dan, to you, kind of building off of that, what have been the primary challenges in utility coordination and managing project budgets, schedules, and risk mitigation? Have you seen these challenges grow in the light of the growing complexity of our subsurface ecosystem?
That's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But I'll do my best to get that done. It's funny that this question came up after Wes, because what Wes has described is a lot of the stuff that we need to use in order to do our utility coordination process. So basically, if you want to say garbage in, garbage out, that's what you're going to get. So in order to manage schedules, manage budgets, and mitigate risk, you have to have a good supervisor that knows how to collect the data in the proper fashion in order to transfer that quality level, which is associated with risk, to the designer, so that we can work with them to make informed decisions on how to make their project successful. The 4M analytics information accelerates that, because if we already have information at hand, we can also deploy resources in the field which affects schedule. We can accelerate some of the processes that would take weeks to days, which saves on budgets. And then we can mitigate risk because we have better quality data at hand, therefore making a better product that we can pass on to our clients when they're making those decisions for design at 30, 60, 90 to kind of, move that forward for them. Some of the other things that are happening is it's getting a lot more difficult because at one point the impression of the utilities was it was just congested, so let's go deeper. So there's new technologies, there's new things that we need to do to kind of figure that out because everybody's going deeper and deeper and deeper. At some point, how deep can you go? Can you find it? And that's a lot of the things that we're working on to do with good records research. As long as we have an idea where it is, we can potentially find it or give you some risk to avoid it. So those are some of the things with the challenges with utility coordination.
Thank you, Dan. Andrea, for you, with Florida's rapid population growth and demand for infrastructure, can you shed light on the impact this growth is having on NMB's infrastructure projects specific to sewage and water, and more specifically, how NMB is leveraging emerging technologies to meet demand while still safeguarding public health and environmental sustainability?
Yes, thank you. It's good to be able to talk about the hard work that utilities do. Most of the time, people forget about water and sewer. Most of the people don't know what happens when you flush a toilet or where you get your water from. But like with every infrastructure, we have infrastructure that has to be upgraded. We're coming to the point where water and sewer infrastructure is one of the oldest infrastructures. So we have to upgrade. And we have to make sure that we have enough flow into the houses, into the multifamilies, which most of the homes are being converted from single family into multifamily. That also helps with fire flow. So what happens most of the time, and is where we are getting hit with, is when projects begin. So we have right now the FDOT interchange that is happening in the Golden Glades. We have to move some of our piping, so we have to do those upgrades. Also, FPL is doing a lot of the underground. We do our own utility location. So we have about 550 miles of pipe around we're in the northeast portion of the county, the second largest utility. We do get hit. So when they say that they're using, AI to map and look at things, sometimes we don't get to it. We have 2 locators. And then we have to locate sometimes 600 tickets, 1,000 tickets. We have 2 days to do it. So now we're looking at other areas where we can actually become efficient. So the other thing is not just on the subsurface. We also have to look at our treatment. So we're using in our treatment, we also are trying to do now digital twins for our plants and better design, because we need to make sure that we're maintaining, number one is the safety, that we provide enough fire flow, that the water quality is good. So we're looking at how we're gonna do AI. We're also looking, for the first time, we hired a computer engineer instead of just a civil or environmental or mechanical engineer to be able to help us out into the next area with technologies.
Thanks, Andrea. All right, well, Al, next question goes to you. So how can technology help expedite infrastructure projects through planning and design stages to keep up with the infrastructure demand while mitigating risk?
Well, as Wes and Nick have pointed out already, the digital information has been amazing. I can tell you 30 years ago, when I started off as a utility engineer, step one was going to the microfiche room and printing out the zoom in, and then going to the city to get their atlas for their water lines, and then you had to be really good at the copy machine to overlay all the prints, right? So Google Street View was a game changer, and where we're at now makes that seem like a child's toy. So being able to get digital plans, records at scale with real-time imagery has really helped us from the start. So right now, one of the major projects we're doing for FPL is they're trying to get straight connections to all their substations. And we're undergrounding a lot of their overhead facilities. At the initial level, the program managers just say, hey, I need to connect substation A to substation B, and they propose we go down A1A. By quickly looking at the as-built, looking at the records, looking at the heat map, we can say, hey, if I deviate and maybe go 1 or 2 blocks off, parallel, I can avoid conflicts, I can avoid choke points, I can avoid signalized intersections, and a lot of the potential for damages, hazards are avoided by making that quick decision up front. And we're not spending engineering time to design this whole route, and 6 months later, my construction crew can't build it. So having that facility, having that information up front helps us make smarter decisions, and it pays off.
Nick, how do you foresee emerging technologies shaping the future of the new standards that are being prepared?
Yes, let me, first, I made some notes, and I found some key words that is the theme of all of this conference, and so I jotted them down so it helps me answer your question. Well, first, infrastructure. That's a common word that I saw throughout all the presentations, which is good. 16 topics, all referencing infrastructure, which was good. The next word I saw was transportation, keyword resiliency, digital, AI, innovation, aging. One word missing, and it's in every one of the 16 topics, utilities. And yet utilities is an integral part of the infrastructure system. And so I want to touch bases on some of the things that I've seen in my many years of doing this. First, innovation is critical because what we've seen in the beginning, like you just talked about, Alejandro, the means and methods in which we did our utility fact-finding on a project from a planning phase was that. You went through hard records, Mylars, go visit the city, the counties, go talk to the field superintendent that has the more knowledge in his brain or her brain about what's there. So we've seen over the last, SUE and the A standard has been around for 20 years. Prior to that, 10 years. So 30, going on 40 years of practicing SUE without a standard and with a standard. And so what we're seeing now as a result of innovation, AI, I'm going to address that because the very first step in this process of understanding the utilities and the impacts to the project and who's going to impact that project is you've got to investigate who the utilities are and where they are. In our days, like Daniel mentioned it in West, is that it's an onerous process, but with the technology that we have now in AI, the process of retrieving information that is pretty well filtered throughout and brought down quickly, we now have information about utilities that we did not necessarily know about. It's because they're retrieving from multiple sources all over, and it's coming back in good, what I would call real time. And so that has helped us because at the early phase, once you know who's involved on that project, then you now have a good understanding of how you're going to proceed forward with the engineer in designing that project. So innovation is critical because now we're rapidly delivering our projects, especially our SUE, because the engineer and the contractors now with all these alternative project delivery methods, they've become an integral part of being the receiver of our information. So that's critical that we don't just have the engineering and the Department of Transportation and the cities as our stakeholders. We got a contractor now who's involved in the whole process of designing it, building it, in some cases maintaining it. So your question is, repeat the question because I talk a lot.
No, thank you. That was good. How do you foresee emerging technologies shaping the future of the new standards that are being prepared?
The new standard that's out now is ASC 3822. It is a standard of care nationally. And we also have now a new standard as it relates to, I'll call it as-builting. Never existed. One never existed. So now we have ASC 7522. It's a complement to ASC 3822, which was meant to be for planning and design that would then lead to construction, now ASC 75. So the innovation process is helping us now take what we're doing and start to integrate it into a GIS database or an asset management database as it relates to during construction. In design, we're seeing that we're feeding our information from the time we go out in the field, like Daniel talked about in Wes about the different quality levels. As they're collecting the information, it's going real time to the engineer, the designer, and it's being put on those drawings, and it's got access to where all the stakeholders will get it, including the utilities. So it is critical now.
Sounds like a single source of truth versus fragmented.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
great, thank you. Wes, hopping back over to you. How is ServWest gaining customer trust and credibility by presenting new and innovative technologies beyond the conventional utility mapping methods?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We are, like I said, we're a DBE small firm of 50 people. And when I talk to larger clients like the AE comms that are 55 to 60,000 people, their eyes open up when we talk about how we are using AI in the SUE process. They're like, oh, okay, everyone's talking about AI and everything. What's the AI in your business? So that's really neat. So it's become a differentiator for us. It's allowed us to be disruptive in the industry, and I use the word disruptive in a positive way, doing some things that maybe some larger firms are going to be a little bit slower to move towards, and as a small firm, we can make those decisions very quickly. And so as an early adopter of Forum Analytics and the AI in the SUE process, it's really become a differentiator for us that kind of helps us to stand out, whether it's on a proposal, an RFP response, or a call with the client on a meet and greet. So it's been very neat in that way. So,
Dan, what do you see as the most challenging hurdle for a digital transformation in the SUE industry?
Digital transformation in regards to AI?
Yeah, emerging technology, like exactly, AI, digital transformation, going from conventional methods to starting to leverage new technologies.
It's just change. Nobody likes to change. I don't want to change, but it's inevitable, right? We need to adapt. The way that we work is we have a workflow and a lot of standard operating procedures and things like that. So when you introduce something like digital transformation, AI, something new, it's going to take some time to write that in and blend that into your workflow and your processes. And we have a process of actually quality controlling that, right? We need to make sure that we're going to accept this new software. We need to make sure that it's going to give us a return, return in a positive way. We didn't want to use it and fail, because that's not good client service. In regards to a digital transformation, I'm a big advocate for innovative. I love new toys. My kids wanted to buy that the new Apple eyeglasses. They're like $4,000. I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, those are insane.
It's
Vision Pro or whatever it's called. Yeah.
But I mean, we have things like that in the SUE industry that allow us to project where utilities exist. You can go out there and create this 3D environment and look at stuff. But inevitably, change is change. Change is adaptable. You have to be open-minded, and we have a lot of very smart people that are doing smarter things than I can do. And if I can utilize that to be a better client service rep, or provide a better product for my clients and save some money for them, and increase the schedule and maintain a budget, I'm all for it. So,
Thank you. Andrea, kind of on the same note, what are the challenges and opportunities you see in implementing new digital technologies for utility management in the public sector, in a public sector context?
Thank you. For the municipalities, the one hard thing is to deal with the politics. So we usually have to go to a commission, to committees, present our annual budgets. So when you start showing some of the newer technology, you really have to show, why are you investing in something, but you are going to show that in the future you're going to have a return. So I'm expecting that in the next 10 years, municipalities are going to have to come into the 21st century. We're still behind. We're still doing records by hand. And also, a lot of the people that we have are retiring. So how do we keep that information? How do we gather the information to make sure that also the future generations have the knowledge? So at the same time, we also need to make sure that the future engineers like working in municipalities. Right now everybody's going to consulting because they're applying some of this new technology. So we have to do that. At the same time, cybersecurity is a big issue for us. We have to make sure that we are maintaining our infrastructure secure. We actually feed water into the hard rock. So right now I expect that now that FIFA is coming this way, we're probably going to have some of those meetings in security, cybersecurity, hackers, what can happen. So my team right now is working on some of the project updates, and cybersecurity is something that we need to discuss, how we make the best out of our financial. And at the same time, we have to make sure that we're maintaining our water affordable for our ratepayers.
That's great. Do you think it could help with recruitment, just like leveraging these new technologies to have, people that are entering the workforce to want to, join these companies, these industries?
I'm pretty sure that's going to be very helpful with the newer generations that are wanting to buy
The Vision
$4,000
Pro, Apple Vision Pro generation.
glasses. Yeah. When you tell them, hey, come, we have a digital twin that you can work in the computer. There's a 3D model that you can look at it. Here's the piping that you can do. You can do your designs prior to actually build out. So I think that's really going to be helpful.
Al, how can technology help project owners enhance the resilience of critical transportation and utility infrastructure to withstand the increasing threats of extreme weather and climate change? I know specifically in Florida, you guys are dealing with a lot of that.
Correct. So as you mentioned earlier, extreme weather is something that's really impacted the utility industry, particularly the power. So the old adage in the utility business will say poles and wires are the way to go. It's cheap and it's horribly efficient. You put a pole, if it breaks, you put another one. With the impact of storm, downtime, and the now dependence on power almost around the clock, the move to go underground now is not a question of if or when, if but when. So they're moving a lot of the undergrounding. Right now, every year for FPL, we're replacing about 250 miles of overhead lines with about 400 miles of new underground facilities. And almost all the new construction is underground. So this is where the technology is required up front, because if you don't have a good design, you can't get it built. So particularly here in downtown Miami, you look at the congestion, you look at a lot of the development that are in there, and now, the old solution of going deeper doesn't always work because you're stacked and you're trying to find right paths, and you have to go ahead and model what your growth plan is. And utilities like Duke, Florida, and FPL have to be thinking 10 years down the road to put the infrastructure now to have that power available for the Hard Rocks and the other hotels coming in.
Thank you. Nick, I saw you jotting down notes, so to you.
Well, you covered the resiliency. Thank you, because I was going to actually, that's good. Yeah, because resiliency is critical now. Our right-of-way is very limited with space. We've got climate that's affecting our coastal regions and even inner with hurricanes. So we're seeing an increase in undergrounding of overhead structures, and that's a positive, but it also has its challenges because we do have limited right-of-way in the public right-of-way. But we can reach solutions because the better we design and the more information we have that reflects what's underground, the better we can accommodate. But there's a challenge, because not only is the underground power going underground, you've got telecommunications, you've got now the broadband that's going to go underground as well, because usually they're attached to those overhead structures. So to go take them underground, their infrastructure may be very, very dated in those conduit and manhole systems that are below ground. And to me, that's where we have to start looking, that we've got to start being more innovative about starting to take out the old infrastructure and integrate the new into a new facility. So yeah, it's resiliency, and I think we definitely need to be thinking about it. And I know that most of you are already doing that in the governmental agencies, and I think is going to be a key thing for us.
Thanks, Nick. Ken, I know we're a little probably over time here, but I want to thank everybody again. I want to thank the panelists, and Ken too. Thank you, Ken, for putting this on. I really appreciate you guys. And if you want to learn a little bit more about 4M Analytics, you may have seen our booth outside. Come and say hi. Thank you.